Welcome to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. We're Suzanne and Sarah, your favorite duo here to talk about all things real estate, investing, and living life you love by design. Ready to turn those big dreams into big moves? Let's get started because time is money, honey.
Thanks for tuning in to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe and leave us a review because your feedback helps us reach people like you who are ready to elevate their lives. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who's passionate about real estate or personal growth. And for more tips, resources, and updates, follow us on Insta or visit us at CentralOregonInvestorNetwork.com. And remember, you have the power to design the life you want, one real estate investment at a time. See you next week. This episode is about how Sarah and I met. And here's the short story. We met on Instagram.
Yeah, and I think so many people are really interested in the team dynamic too. So I'm excited to dive into the evolution today and just how we made it all up.
Do you want me to share my memory of like how this all happened? I could go back in my phone and probably look up our DMs, right?
Yeah.
But it was October 2021.
Mhm.
And I barely was just posting on Instagram, at least in my memory. And I got one of my first DMs. And it was from Sarah. And it's so funny too, because I was following you and I was like, oh, she has this great content. Like everything's so professional and polished. She's got this great, everything just looks so good. And then you reached out to me and you said something like, I love what you're doing. I'm interested in learning more about the investment space. Would you want to meet up? That's what I remember. Do you remember anything different?
Yeah, what I remember was thinking the same thing about you, just following your feed and how polished and put together it was and how consistent your posting was and your branding was. You had Missy helping you at the time because you were still doing your corporate thing. And you appeared to be doing business, whether that was my own naivety or not at the time, because we post things like property features and things like that. Anyways, you appeared to be doing business. You probably at the time still didn't talk a lot about your own investments, but you talked about how you were helping other people get into investment real estate. And I knew where I was and what I was doing wasn't working. It wasn't sitting right. So gosh, I don't remember the exact thoughts I had early on, but I knew that I was where I was because we had invested in our first property and was able to transition lives through owning real estate, right? And so maybe that was the click. I can't say for sure, but I was like, all right, this gal, she's got something going on. I guess let's talk to her. But man, that's thinking back, like that's the old Sarah. That's so not like me. So I don't know. I don't think of myself as very proactive in terms of reaching out to people to connect and in my past life, but I did, and it was a good decision.
Yeah, I know. And it was like an answered prayer for me, seriously, because at that time, I knew I was going to Mexico. I knew I was going to be gone for 3 months. I felt like I had all these loose ends. And at that time was working with a corporate flipper that didn't know, number one, that I had a corporate job in addition to real estate. And number two, that I was going to be gone for months at a time. And I just remember writing down, at least I made a mental list of what I wanted. It was very simple. It was just like, I want a business partner who's local, who has children. That was on my list. And the reason was for the opposite schedules, knowing that I tend to want to be gone in the winter, which is not a big time for kids to be off except for winter break. And that the time that I really wanted to spend in the area was more like the spring, summer, fall time. Yeah, it was a pretty succinct list of what I wanted. And then out of the blue pops Sarah in my DMs.
I think I knew that doing this alone wasn't going to work for me. And because I historically have had a really hard time showing it for myself, I've gotten way better at that in recent years. But just having someone that you care about and working together and learning from, I think makes all the difference for one. And for two, what was going on in my personal life at that time was a husband. So my husband and I came from doing a job where we're self-employed entrepreneurs ourselves together. In order to get out of that, he had to get a W-2 job, and it was well paying. It got us out of the situation that we were doing, but our agreement was always like, we're going to leapfrog off of each other. Sarah, you can start this real estate thing and I'll have the W-2 to support us while you get that going, but we're impatient. Matthew was like, you're not making any money. What's going on? You need to start making money soon or else this isn't going to work. And that's why I got a TC job at the time. And I think that's what I was doing when I met you. And then meeting you, there was extra income as well. And at the time, that was a lot of money for me to be coming in, and it just felt great. Yeah. Slid into your DMs. Of course, you being as amazing you are, I was like, heck yeah, let's meet up. We met up at the Commons Cafe. We got our turmeric lattes. We went for a walk. You were like, hey, amazing timing. You want to help me out being my boots on the ground while I'm out of town? And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And you said, Sarah, how much money do you want to make? And I was like, I want to make $300,000 a year. And,
Yes.
and, and at the time, again, this crazy lofty idea. And I think, what I know about you and your love for money and what I love, about me and my love for money, like, I think we connected there for sure. And we're going to do this through real estate investing and, leveraging that and the community that we build in our real estate business. I'm getting ahead of myself. It didn't start that quickly. So yeah, the first things we collaborated on, Suzanne, pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
What do you
It
remember?
was okay. I remember you are still just a Canva aficionado. So I remember wanting to do some just sold postcards for some properties that I had sold. And so you just took the bull by the horns and you were like, I'm going to make a postcard for owner occupied, non owner occupied. And like you had this whole spreadsheet of all the people we were targeting and put together these amazing designs with QR codes. And that was a really big one that I remember. And then it was near the end of the year too. So something we're actually doing right now is pulling end of year settlement statements for all of our clients and sending them you sent them in the mail, right?
Mhm.
Printed out the settlement statements and a little letter just saying, here's for your tax records, all those important documents. Those were the two biggest things that I remember. And I think prepping a couple of listings for that corporate flipper that we worked with.
Yeah, that's what I remember as well. And part of it was weekly meetings. We started having weekly meetings early on. And I think pretty quickly I made the change to the brokerage you were with, at least like after the first 3 months,
I
4
think so. Yeah.
It was pretty quick. I remember, like, I think we just worked really well together. This is great. I want to keep doing this with this person. And I remember liking the people at my brokerage that I was with, and that was hard, but I was like, I've got to move in order to make this work. And I'm sure I was direct with you. I was like, Suzanne, do you want to keep working together in some way? What do you remember? First jump, because the first jump is hard because that's an important part, I feel.
So I came back, you were still in your TC job, but you were just, I know I can do more and I'm ready to make the leap because you had to give up a steady paycheck. That was
Yeah.
significant.
And I feel like I even started coaching with Alicia before I moved over there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I was like, oh my gosh, there's this person that cares so much and I'm not even working with them. So I think that was part of the move too. Is just because I had basically zero experience with coaching in my life, Suzanne. And that was phenomenal to me. Somebody wants to take 30 minutes out of their busy life and focus on me, and in her case, for free. I don't know. I took that to heart.
Yes. And I think that's a big part of why I joined that brokerage to begin with too. And I think that's probably also what made you tell me, did it give you confidence to make the leap from a steady paycheck to just living off commission?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that someone had your back?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough, man. Yeah, I think probably the segue between leaving the TC job, which was a steady paycheck, and then knowing that you do consistent business because whatever you're doing is working. I was like, all right, I got this. Suzanne's got this. I got this with Suzanne. If Suzanne's got it, I've got it.
And we had a steady pipeline with that flipper too. So like at that point we had probably had 8 properties coming up that we knew we were going to be listing.
Yep, yep, yep. And then right when I made the switch, I brought in my first seller for us and did that. That was
Yes.
the ribbon or whatever. So yeah, it's funny the shift, like
Hmm.
making a decision for yourself. That just shift in and of itself opened the floodgates. And life is just so interesting in that it's almost not calculated, right? But you make these moves and then everything just feels better and falls into place. I don't know. At least that's my experience. Should be more calculated, but that's just not how I operate.
I remember you saying, and I know this is so true for you, like the very first day we met with our turmeric lattes at Drake Park, you were like, everything I set my mind to,
Yeah.
I get.
Yeah.
I know once I define what I want, I get it. And
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
That is putting into the universe what you want and expecting it to deliver. And we both believe that.
Yeah. We were just having that conversation today. That's the beautiful thing, but also, like I said, where I'm at, the scary thing. You're just so dang powerful. I just want to do good and intentional things with that because, anyways, that's getting off the point. But yes, great. All right. So good. So we're still at this point. I'm still basically Suzanne's assistant, and Suzanne is basically cost sharing with me any listings that I take on with her and buyers too. I think early, it was pretty
It's
early.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did it across the board. It was buyers and sellers, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, and early on, to be specific, for people who are interested about how a team dynamic can work as you're getting to know each other, anything that Suzanne brought on, I got 30.
It was 30%,
Mhm.
and then I kept 70 unless I had to pay out or you had to pay out a referral fee, which
Mhm.
is something that happens within the real estate industry for people who aren't familiar with what that is. So if it was a referral fee on either side, then the receiving party would get 15% of the commission. So it was something, but they were small.
No, I mean, but it's all motivating, man. I love things based on commission as opposed to flat rates. So early on, we made that decision. And I love the split idea because it's just motivating in that way, as opposed to just like an hourly rate in order to fully put yourself into it. How was that for you, Suzanne? How did that feel? Was that scary?
No, it wasn't. I know that I had guidance. At that point, I had that same coach that we were talking about earlier, Alicia, and I asked her, what do you think is fair for something like this? And I'm certain she gave me the suggestion of the 70-30 split to start out. It was always meant to be starting point and then to evolve over time as we built trust and built a business together. Because at this point, when we were first working together, it was just my sphere, your sphere, and we were merging our spheres together. And I think it was just that point, but there was never a set date where we were like, okay, by X date or by X number of transactions or dollars or anything. So it was fluid and it evolved over that time.
So we did that for a while, like a year
Mhm.
and a half, 2 years at least. And it wasn't until last summer.
Yeah. Summer 24 that we just went straight 50-50.
Yep. So yeah, so go whatever our splits were, we kept a spreadsheet for expenses. And so if it was a transaction where we bought a gift and Suzanne made 70 and I made 30, we would split that expense 70-30. So pretty simple math across the board. I don't think there's ever been discrepancies, like in terms of just questioning any of that. I don't
Which
like,
is, I have to say, I just want to stop on that point. Like, money and relationships can be tricky.
yeah,
And this is why so many partnerships don't work
sure.
because people either get weird about it or have resentments or don't talk about stuff. And so I think for anyone listening, the message that I want to portray here is just having an open dialogue about how do we want to do this? Like, when you're a business owner, you get to make it all up, which is great, but it's also, where do I start? And so having that candid conversation about how do we want to do this, and if there was ever any question of like, how do we want to split this expense, it was just a conversation instead of something festering for either of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that's unique personality type, and I'm not sure how to train that into people, but I think the only thing that one could train themselves around is their own personal relationship with money. I come from probably more of a trauma-based money situation. Like, money was tight for my family for a long time. And I come from a mom who worked two jobs growing up, who was single, blah, blah, blah. And money's never been a thing around or that comes easily. One has to work hard for it physically. But I think it's more just the shift. How I've been able to do it organically is just really developing my own sense of self-worth and just knowing that it's a tool, knowing how I want to use it in a positive way, knowing that my time is worth it. And then I think where you and I are so unique, Suzanne, is I think we share similar perspectives on money, and also we share similar perspectives on the value of time as well.
Yes.
So I think just like in order for teams to work, you have to share a lot of the same ethos in that way. One of my favorite things about us is we set money goals every year, we set production goals every year, but we also set time off goals and try and keep expanding that as well, because I think ultimately it's our shared belief that that's the most valuable thing, and that's what we're both going for the most of. But we understand that you got to put in the work and you got to set up the systems in order to make that happen. So
Yes. And the money is what helps you to enjoy that time off,
mhm.
right? Or create a life that um, nurtures that value for both of us.
Mhm. Yeah, I think for us what's just so cool too, is I love using this past November. My life as an example. Like, I worked 1 week of the month in November. I was off for 3 full weeks in November, not doing real estate. And
Mm.
it was our biggest production month ever in terms of income.
Yeah.
And granted, what we did before that set us up for that. The goal for me, at least, is that money is still being made even when I'm not physically working or in the office, right? That's the big picture. Yeah.
The true definition of passive income. And that's something that I think a lot of people in the real estate sales industry, selling real estate, don't even think about. So that's why you have so many people that are, I admire a lot of realtors that work into their 60s, 70s, and beyond. However, I think a lot of those people do so out of necessity because they haven't figured out how to create some passive streams of income to have more freedom. That, and or it's an enjoyable job that you can do for a very long time and make it as big or small as you want.
I'm always just so blown away at this point, like how few realtors actually either own their own home.
I know. Yeah.
Like how few properties people own. If you're in real estate, I feel like you should own a lot of properties. I don't know. It's what we do. You know what I mean? That's, I think, what we know is ultimately going to be able to buy ourselves out of working. That's going to be the biggest portion, but we're going to have other portions as well. But like, that's the goal.
Because we're the ones seeing the best deals out there.
Yeah. And it's our industry, man. We get to have these communications, these relationships. Like, we get to negotiate our own deals. We get to be creative for ourselves. Anyways, but
Yeah.
how do you think we built trust? What do you think that was in defining roles? Like, how do you build trust?
That is a great
Yeah.
question. I think some of it you can't define. It's a gut feeling, number one. So let's just put that out there. And then number two, I think it's just like with anything, like when we have hired new people into our team, Sarah, we start out with projects that are minimal impact, just trying and editing, just doing new things, refining processes, doing new things, refining. And delegating more responsibility between ourselves. So I think you just start out, and I don't know how to define it very well. Do you have a better?
Yeah, so like for me, I think it's really just the showing up for each other, the consistency. That's in my world huge. Just continuing to be there on the other line and not just disappearing or completely pivoting. And also I think the communication piece, it's for me, those two things. It's the continuing to show up and then just how we keep open lines of communication, and that's just through consistency in terms of seeing each other or meeting, really. And so that's for me what has created trust.
Hmm. And I think, not to put it into black and white, but to generalize, I think people are either inherently trusting or you have to earn their trust.
Hmm,
I know that I fall into the inherently trusting box.
me too.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be earned, it just
Mm,
has to be maintained.
sure. Yeah. I would define myself as the same way too. I'm just optimistic about people. And if you screw up, then it's another conversation. Suzanne always likes to point out how my superpowers early on are speed and follow up. And that comes from, oh my gosh, it comes from a couple different things for me. One, getting started in my real estate career during COVID, where you just had to be fast. And two, my past career as a farmer, like everything had to be really efficient, right? Everything had to be super fast and super efficient to make any kind of money. So it's taken me years to decompress from that a little bit, be okay with things maybe not being as efficient as they could be sometimes, but those have definitely been two of my strengths. And then I think also just showing up, I think I'm good at showing up for other people. I care about being there for other people if they rely on me. That's important to me. So there's that. And then I feel like this is a really great example. There's Suzanne here who's super polished. She's got lipstick and her hair done. And here's Sarah, who is still, sweaty from her workout, which is fine. That's Suzanne sometimes too. But this is a really good picture of just, again, we just balance each other out in that way. And Suzanne with all her perfect emails and perfect bold spots and like underlines and bullet points. And it still happens to this day where we get clients who are like very type A and have 1 zillion questions, and I get really overwhelmed. I'm like, I cannot answer that many questions in one email and make it succinct. So Suzanne has been able to take on anyone who just functions in a different way, who thinks in a more corporate way, whereas I think in this more abstract, flowy, long-winded way.
That's just what I love and appreciate so much too, is we excel in some areas where the other person doesn't. And so we naturally gravitate to some of those roles. And we also are comfortable asking the other person, like, hey, this one seems like more your style. Can you handle this? Yeah, I wouldn't say we have a hard and fast rule, but it's pretty organic.
Mhm.
And what I love about Sarah is that she does respond immediately. She's so fast. Like, speed to lead is Sarah to a T. Whereas I'm the person, like you were saying earlier, Sarah, where I would take too much time writing these perfectly formatted, proofread emails. And sometimes it was just like, I just wouldn't send them because it wasn't perfect, and that is not the way to do things. So you helped me a lot to overcome that perfectionist tendency that I've had for all of my life, and to just realize, like all the great books out there, done is better than perfect. Done is
Mhm.
better than perfect, and people have grace for us if we misspell something or make small typographical errors or whatever. Like, that's not important. It's just getting back to people, being there for people, and not letting our own insecurities, like mine, sometimes get in the way. So,
Yeah, sometimes that speed is what makes or breaks transactions. Really, I don't care what the market's like, how slow or how quick or whatever. Time is always of the essence in real estate. And there's the crazy Murphy's Law of real estate rule. Something can be on the market for 200 days and then you have a client interested in it. And then there's another offer on the table. So like, I think it just proves time and time again Yes, time is always of the essence in real estate, but what I've learned from you, Suzanne, is yes, choosing when to follow up quickly and when things can wait too. I'm wondering if we had an aha moment when we realized we were like fully committed and ready to dive in. Because for me, I don't think it was a single moment in reflection. Honestly, like a marriage, but
Yeah.
like that was complicated. Complicated. 'Cause we really are. We're so intertwined in that like, we're really committed to each other. And fortunately, we haven't had any issues that we've had to like truly get through yet. I'm hopeful that, but I'm also not naive, right? There might come a time when we've got something hard to get through. But like the point is, and I'm glad we're talking about this, we're together. We're in relationship in this and things are intertwined. And if there are problems, we have to work through them. We have to talk about it. But for me, yeah, it's just okay, we're intertwining our lives in terms of how we make income. And we're both now the breadwinners for our families. And that's pretty darn important. We rely on each other to do that, right? So that's pretty intense when you think about it. And obviously, we're setting up things outside of what we do together as well. But truly, it's like the work, what we do here is the workforce. So for me, it's more just I knew early on that you're a really special, amazing human. And clearly, we work well together. And for me, it's just that's how I've always thought it was just like a relationship. We're in relationship.
Yes. Yes. I would agree too. I don't remember a specific moment where it was like, oh yeah. But I think it was Bill reflecting back to me when we were working together. I just remember so many times being like, oh my gosh, I love Sarah. This is so amazing. And him saying to me, this seems like it's a really good thing. And yeah, let's keep this going. You're happier. Like you get to do the things you want to do. You're not so stressed out all the time. Like there were benefits to other people in our lives from us working together.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I think you feel the same way with Bill, but I also very much trust like the feedback that I get from my husband. And he's always, I'm just so happy for you, Sarah. I'm so happy for you that you found Suzanne and this business partner. And he's cynical as hell. So he would not say he wouldn't say that if that were he's very judgmental. Wouldn't say that if that weren't true. And so I don't know, that means a lot. It means a lot to me coming from my husband and my true life partner, hearing that, yeah, they're happy for us and that they see the difference in us and what this makes because it's just all like this perfect little circle
It
of
is.
goodness.
Yeah.
Anyways, we do a lot of this like tooting our own and each other's horns, and that's what's so cute about this too. It's all
And
genuine.
that's, yeah, we get a lot of positive reinforcement for what we do. And
I love it. I love it. We have a client, Suzanne, who said to me the other day when I was with them, so does Suzanne do the intake and then like you get passed off to the clients get passed off to you? I'm like, no, that's not necessarily how this works. There are definitely some clients where Suzanne clicks more with them and takes them on and vice versa. And it just happens like that. But I think that does lead to a good question about teams and how we work as well. What are our roles at any given time? And I think in part, this is multifaceted. I think in part it relies on our strengths, but also where we are physically at any given time. And I think also acknowledging that we're both obviously capable of doing everything, but I think we have realized that, or at least I've realized, I believe there are things that you are better at than I am, and there are things that I like to rely on you to do more. So yeah, I wouldn't say that our business necessarily has fixed roles, but I think it's more like systems that we've developed over time, right?
yeah, and I think our like we just follow our natural aptitudes. And I would say the same about you. There are things that you are way better at than I am, and that I rely on you for as well. I think if we had to generalize, I really love being out there. I love networking. I love being a magnet of
Yeah, you are client lead, like you bring everybody in.
and then Sarah just is the nurturer. That's how I see you, is just once these people are in our sphere, you are the one that is just like giving them all the love and attention and um, the responsiveness that keeps people loyal to us and coming back for transaction after transaction. And it's not just transactions, like coming back for more in so many different ways, our community, and sometimes just to hang out and have beers on the deck. And that's just what I appreciate about you, is just like you fulfill the promise.
Mm.
That's how I see it. You know?
And there's a skill that you have that I still don't have. I'm not sure I'll ever really have it, but that I think helps our business as well, which is just you're so good at I feel like you're really good at making everyone feel like your best friend, for one. Like you make everyone just feel so seen, loved, appreciated. And you are good at doing that like for a long time. You're good at nurturing your relationships after they're gone. I think reflecting on the ebb and flow of our business, that's something we could probably build out for you more too, right? Is this like you bring people in, then I get people through, and then let's make sure we're capitalizing on your experiences and how good you are just naturally at staying in touch with people. You
Mhm.
know, because
Yeah,
I'm not like I'm just historically not. I don't know what that is about me, but I'm just not. So
that's okay. And that's a really good thing for me to add to my list of just, yeah, having that continuity. And we do that, I think, with some of our systems that we've adopted of the house anniversary.
still it's on a list and it's part of our business
Yeah.
versus like you have friends all over the world and you actually visit them and you have regular trips, whatever, like which is so beautiful. But that's while that's all personal, that's what this business is. It's a personal business.
Yes. I love it. Oh, this
You
is so fun. Do we want to talk about our challenging situation that we navigated together? Are we ready to get into that on this one?
Oh, maybe. I don't know what you're talking about.
Leaving our first brokerage.
Oh, all right. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, we should get to oh my gosh, we've got such a long story.
I know,
Uh,
we really do. Whew,
cool.
okay. Oh boy. How do I make this succinct? Here's what I'll say. Uh, I had my eye on the brokerage we're at now for a very long time. I had been following them on social. I I don't know, like they had been in my environment and I put a little pin in them for later. And then Sarah and I found ourselves in a situation with our former brokerage where we perceive some stepping on toes. And I will totally admit here, like I get really territorial. I'm a Leo. Just think of me like a lion. Like that
Yeah.
just I get territorial and I felt like someone was inching in on our territory. Not just our physical territory, but also the space in which we operate in the investment realm. And I perceived it as a threat, whether real or imagined. And um and I think we had enough data points to feel like, okay, this isn't just a figment of our imaginations. And also, we were at a brokerage that didn't have an office in Bend.
Yeah,
We
we
were
were mhm.
on an island on our own, making our way and doing a good job of it. But it was the end of the year. And at the same time that we were, this doesn't feel good, the principal broker at our current brokerage sent us a business planning PDF. Hey, looks like y'all are doing really well. We would love to just share this resource with you as you plan for the next year. That's my memory of how we made that transition so swiftly. And I guess, yeah, the navigating that together, like maybe you want to talk about how.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick up from where you said whether it was real or perceived. And the thing I want to speak to there is obviously within real estate, like everybody is your competition,
Yeah.
technically. Right? And there are lots of people saying that they specialize in the investment real estate space. But I think probably the issue where we were was it felt just too close to home coming from the highest up where in the brokerage that we were at, the owners. And it was probably just good timing is how I like to look at it, right? Like
Mhm.
there's caused enough strife for us to also realize that Like maybe we just are ready, we've outgrown this or ready for a change. And it wasn't necessarily what they were doing, I think, and for me in hindsight, that like caused issue. It was more just we were ready for a change. We had outgrown it, like I just said. And also what I remember is it was winter. What is Suzanne doing when she leaves? And so we wanted, or I wanted a space to call home. Like I wanted more connection. I've known that about myself the past several years. I just need more connection with people. And that's a huge reason why I love this industry. But I just wanted a space that felt like we belong with still more people around us that actually care. So that's what we did. We made a switch, but we'll back up a little bit and just reflect, I think, on that conversation and I think what was hard about it. And you and I did the right thing. We had a conversation about it. We prepped ahead of time about how we felt and how we aligned on it. And we decided to have a conversation. We asked to have a specific conversation with the people we're concerned with about it. And early on, I said, Suzanne, I'm not good at hard conversations. I need you to be our hard conversation haver. I've learned about myself since then that whatever, I love hard conversation. It's fine. Do I really like them? No, but I'm fine at having them. And I let you lead that conversation, and you came at it from a very corporate and unfeeling. Like you came at
Totally.
facts, and that just ultimately didn't sit right with the people we were communicating with. And it didn't affect me, right? Whatever. We're in complete support and alignment with each other, but it didn't rub them the right way, right? And it didn't end very well with them. And the feedback that I got from them, because I decided to share all my emotional garbage with them afterwards about like how I really felt, was that they told me that I'm passive aggressive. We both learned a lot from that experience together. And I don't know that we learned about each other necessarily. I honestly think it all lined up perfectly and it was our path. But I think we both had the opportunity to like learn a little bit about ourselves in that experience, and perhaps how to have these hard conversations in a different way sometimes in different contexts. But I don't know. I come at everything like very heart wide open and just want to know how everybody's feeling. But yeah, and I think you tend to guard that a little bit more, right? And so I think just judging our audience perhaps, and or for me trying to get a little bit more succinct and pointed with these things and be more direct, and then maybe for you like letting your heart into the conversation a little bit more sometimes.
So true. And I still struggle with that
Mhm.
in some of my communications. So I
Yeah.
can totally own that.
Yeah. I remember that was a hard one. That was a hard one for you to get over, right?
It
Like,
was.
yeah. Do you remember what the trauma was for you there? What the feelings were in the end?
Number one, I felt like I let you down because
We weren't like trying to stay, right? Like,
no, but I felt I let you down because you had asked me to have this hard conversation and
oh,
it went horribly sideways. And I could not have predicted how poorly it would go. And it was, I don't know if this person would have reacted any differently if I had been more loving and open. Maybe not. We'll never know. But my biggest guilt was that I had let you down. Yeah,
you
because you
did.
had asked me to do that. And also, I do have some trauma around my very bullet pointed factual communication for my corporate job,
Yeah.
related to an email that I sent. Like there, I don't even know if I've told you this story, Sarah. I probably haven't. But yeah, a very hard time for me when I was leaving one of my corporate jobs was around an email that I sent to the very highest levels of the organization that was read in all caps, very factual, and it did not go well. So yeah, I'm still learning.
Yeah. No, it's all good. We're in the right spot doing the right things now. And again, that wasn't what ended up happening with that conversation in that difficult time didn't materially affect our relationship in a negative way. It really just launched us into making faster decisions, just making change, which is what we were after and what we needed.
And I think it showed us both that we can get into action super fast and make a quick decision, and it ended up being the right one.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was great. Like we just followed our gut. It was interesting that I had had these people pinned in my mind. Then they reached out to us and it was just it all flowed really well. And I think that's something that we also I look for in life is like where are things flowing? And that's what I tend to gravitate towards.
For sure. Same.
Yeah. How do you balance business partners and friends? It's a good question. We started off as business partners, and I would say like our friendship and um, yeah, like closeness has evolved through our work together. I consider you a very good friend, one of my dearest friends in all of Bend and in my life. Like I value you so highly outside of just what we're creating together in our work because I've learned so much from you and I admire you and I just love how confident you are in who you are and how you go after what you want.
Thank you. For me, with our friendship versus business, my friendships have always been very business. I'm either working on myself personally, I'm working on a business, or I'm working with my family. Like those are like the three sectors of my life. There really isn't like a just friend sector. And sure, it's there, but it's pretty small. And I'm pretty much okay with that. Like where I guess where I'm going with this with you, friendship and business is incorporated and it goes together. And I like the efficiency of having fun while working. So that matters the most to me, to be totally honest. I don't feel any deficit that we're not making specific plans to go do this thing outside or whatever. I honestly don't think we need to be doing that. We see and talk to each other enough through this. And what we do is just inherently fun. We create it that way. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise in that way. I think it's important. I just think we have a really good division of it. I think it's important for you to do you and with your friends, and me, whatever else I'm doing on the side, whether that's myself or my family, and if the couple little friends that I have, it just works.
I would say for me, coming from more of a corporate structure, for a very long time, I compartmentalized this is my work life and this is my personal life. And yeah, it has evolved. Obviously, a lot of the people that I call friends are people that I worked with in my previous jobs.
Mm.
But yeah, I remember at one point, like early on in my career, I was like, oh, you can be friends with your coworkers. Okay. It's not just all work. And it was an aha for me at that early time in my career because I just thought work was work and friends and families, it's all compartmentalized. But ultimately, it's not. And it's really rewarding, I think, to have it all in one, all
Yeah.
wrapped up.
Yeah, I think one thing that's so interesting about us and the way we're so busy, we always have such an agenda, when we're together. It's rare that we just talk about random things, even whatever at the beginning of meetings. But what I love is just how over the course of the amount of time we've been working together, I get these little drips of learning about Suzanne along the way. And just all of a sudden, I had no idea about that about you. I just feel like we both have so much going on, even outside of work, that I just love that about us. And I love that I don't know everything about you. But I also look forward to getting to know all the pieces of you over time, balanced in my opinion in that way. But yeah, I just think we're just so darn busy that business is really the priority. And like that's why we're here. Like
Yeah.
we have our own goals outside of this, but yeah.
The fact that it's fun, it doesn't feel like work in that kind of heavy sense of the word. We're getting stuff done and having fun while we do it.
Mhm. What how would you define your communication style?
Oh, uh, diplomatic.
All right. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
a fault sometimes.
yeah. Okay. It's just interesting because people are always like, how does this work so well between you guys? And it all just comes down to communication. And again, I have no formal training and I'm always looking for the feedback. And but whatever we're doing with communication is working, and we'll have to
Mm.
work on defining that more for
How would
ourselves.
you define yours?
Direct, unfeeling, unemotional. I don't know. That's I guess I have two ends of the spectrum. I'm direct, I'm very direct, but I'm also emotional and I've had to learn to marry those two things in order to become a better communicator, because I think I can be both ends of the spectrum, and I think my best self puts those two things together. I think when I'm being too direct, I'm not considering people's feelings and their emotions and how they might perceive how I'm coming off in terms of just through just words, right? Or just if it's through text, especially, right? Email or text, that if it's someone who I know doesn't know me very well, that I need to take the time to marry those two things. With you, my hope is that with the people who know me, they can just deal with the directness just because it's just efficient for me sometimes. And I'll let you know if there's something else going on. But this is where I look for feedback too with the people I actually care about, like you, Matthew, whatever. If I'm being too direct, sometimes people just have to tell me that. So, or emotional too. They're in the spectrum.
And I think I can learn from you how to infuse more emotion into my communication when I'm just being like businesswoman, like detached. I think I can come off as detached and robotic in some ways.
Yeah. My perception of you when that happens is just, damn, she's secure. She's happy with herself and what she's got going on. She doesn't feel like she needs anybody else in her life in order to make her feel whole or complete or whatever. And so it's just, whereas I feel like I'm probably still needy in that way. It's, oh, I like need these people to like us and want to use us for business and whatever. Whereas you're like, we don't need them, Sarah. We've got more. I'm probably still in the I don't have enough stage, and Suzanne's probably more still, I'm good. I'm good on people, I'm good on things. I don't know, maybe that's
Mm,
that's my perception, is that you're very secure with just like where you are in life and who you are, and that
mm,
there's always more coming. So, which I think is
thank
a positive thing.
you. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. That's good to hear.
All good. We're not for everybody. Everybody's not for us.
Right.
But we're for so many people. So that's why there's a lot of us out there, and the people that come to us for a reason.
How do we see our partnership growing in the future? I have an idea.
I'm definitely in this pause stage. I'm just having a hard time imagining how it can get better. In my mind, things are so good right now. And sure, I still have some pretty lofty goals out there, but I think a lot of them are time based. So I just think we have to keep doing what we're doing, but I don't know. I want to hear your idea. Now I'm curious.
I think it's managing the dynamic of bringing on more people into our team, because what we've just talked about for the last hour is how special the relationship is that we have built together, the partnership, the business, the friendship. And when you bring other people into that,
Mm,
things can change. And so I think that's something I'm personally very protective of,
mm,
is making sure that our partnership is, paramount,
mm.
and nothing is worth losing what we've built together. Nothing. So I think that will be the piece, because I think we both want to have more location independence when it's the right time for you in your life phase, or even in the seasons. Bringing in someone to help with more of the on the ground stuff will have an impact on the dynamic. So it's got to be someone that fits into what we've got going on and not the other way around.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love how protective you are of us, Suzanne. That makes me so happy. Yes. There's that line. Yeah. And I think it's funny that we were just saying how I go into situations automatically trusting people, but I don't trust anybody to do what we're doing to the level that we're doing it. And that's tough. I think that's probably, I'm glad we're talking about this, because that's probably my hang up with, and or our hang up in terms of finding the right person, because honestly, we know it's so hard to find people that actually show up and are consistent and are doing what they say they're going to do, and don't let life completely take over them or whatever. We've seen so many examples all around us. Somehow we just haven't found someone who's on the same level. I'm sorry, I'm going to go on my own little tangent here, but so with Matthew and I, in our farm business, we got to this point too. We're like, how do we grow this business? Oh, we need a manager. Okay. You can't find somebody who cares about a business like you do. And so we tried to bring on a partner and that didn't work for us, right? And that's was ultimately the demise of our farm business. That was when we got out. But maybe that's the mindset shift, right? Maybe it's less like looking for an equal.
Yeah, for sure. We don't need an equal.
Okay. And yeah, I don't, and that's where I love because I want to be in our own little protective bubble.
Mhm.
But I feel like what I'm looking for is pretty basic. I've still had a hard time finding it. So this is where we should have a side shoot and really try and refine what those qualities are that we're looking for.
Here's what I will say though, like our very first hire, so successful, still with us to this day.
Mm.
Dedicated, conscientious, kind, compassionate, all the wonderful things. Like we absolutely have found somebody that we also met on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ironically, we both met her on Instagram before we even moved to our brokerage. Anyways, we'll
Yeah.
go into that tangent on another episode. But I just want to say we already have success.
You're right. You're right. But I feel like with her, I agree with all the things that you just said, absolutely. But it's like we had an idea from her from the beginning, but then we had to shift her into where it actually ended up fitting for her personality type. I think in my mind, I'm looking for this more like all encompassing human, but maybe that's not it. Maybe it's more a lot of working parts in order to make this all encompassing human that doesn't exist.
Yeah, because I think if we are clear that we don't need another Suzanne and Sarah on the team,
Yeah.
then it may be these very specific roles. We don't need a Jill of all trades. We need someone to fill the parts of our business that we're choosing to delegate.
Yeah. Oh, I like all that, Suzanne. Good work. Gives us something new to think about.
It does. It totally does.
I like it.
Yeah. As we were looking here at some of the things we want to cover, that's something that I'm excited about because I want you to have more freedom and be able to spend your whole weekend with your family and not have to, when I'm not physically in the Bend, Central Oregon area, like not have to open doors and do tours all the time unless you choose to, so that you have a backup for those things. And so that you get that time to rejuvenate and enjoy what it is that we have collectively worked so hard to create.
Mhm. I like it. Good deal. So, future looks like adding more people to our team in a conscientious way and really identifying where those pieces that we need more help and want more help are and identifying those people and putting them into place. I do worry a little bit about managing all those little pieces. I think that's for me, it's almost like it's like us and then a manager and then all those little pieces.
Could be.
And then real estate goes on as is. We keep talking about other pieces of our business that are more evergreen type pieces, more thought leadership type pieces that we intend to build out. And this podcast is one of them, of course. So I think that's probably directly under the Suzanne and Sarah umbrella, the two pieces that I think we're building out in terms of just our future and our income producing together. But even beyond that, we've got our own real estate investments that we're working to build that portfolio or move that portfolio around whatever ways are going to serve us and continue to help us buy ourselves more time. Anything else inside or outside of that umbrella for you?
One follow-up for me from our conversation today is continuing to be that thread for our people, the magnet, and then they move through the Sarah care phase, and then just making sure that I'm closing the loop and not just closing it, but like continuing on to maintain and foster that relationship.
I love it. I love it. Well, what advice would we give ourselves if we went back from the very beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question. I wouldn't change anything.
That's how I feel too. It's just, I think we just met each other at a time where we knew enough about ourselves as far as trusting our gut and moving forward, like in a faithful way, in a way that we're putting our faith in each other. We're relying upon each other to say and do what we say we're going to do. The way you've just treated this like a business from the very beginning. I remember, sorry, I'm going on my own tangent again. This is supposed to be wrapping up, but you, from the very beginning, planning your winter trips around when I was going to be available or not available. Like you're essentially planning your whole year based on my life in a way. I know that sounds like an extreme like thought but like we plan our vacations around each other. Continue to trust and take the chances and learn the lessons and do the hard things, because otherwise it's just what fear, and then fear, you don't move anywhere or do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know, again, like I'm pretty happy with myself and and I'm happy with you. I think for anyone who is stuck, it's just like it's still just like learning to love yourself first and trust yourself first. And that's really it. I think it's pretty simple after that.
And to know what you want and to recognize it when it's put in front of you,
Yeah.
I think is the other thing that maybe is the message here of getting clear on your goals. And this is the perfect time to talk about that at the start of a new year. Goals, big or small, are important because once you're clear on what you want, it will happen.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's action needed to bring that to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think just don't be afraid to shift along the way, make adjustments, cut your losses, move the pieces around to make it fit.
Yeah. Fast decision making is
Mhm.
important. Like
Yeah.
people say, fail fast. Like learn
Yeah.
our lesson and just move on.
A fun episode.
Yeah, so good.
What else
Thank
there's to
you.
learn about us, but we've got one more episode coming up after this one where you get to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we offer in real estate and our services, and then we'll get into weekly juicy stuff. So thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe and leave us a review, because your feedback helps us reach people like you who are ready to elevate their lives. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who's passionate about real estate or personal growth. And for more tips, resources, and updates, follow us on Insta or visit us at centraloregoninvestornetwork.com. And remember, you have the power to design the life you want, one real estate investment at a time. See you next week.